I want to make sure that people who are not able to join us will be able to access the information. So just let everybody know we're recording. All right. Well, welcome everybody. I guess it's 10 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. Other people may come on into the room here in a few minutes, but I want to make good use of our time. Want to welcome you to our quick informational session on the dual credit bridge opportunity. This is an opportunity that has kind of come up quickly, and so we're really excited to welcome you today. We are at CPE super grateful for federal funding that we've received through GEAR and ARPA and ESSER to help support students and our education efforts in the state. And so that's really, we're going to talk about an opportunity that we have based on this federal funding today. So Trinity, if you'll go ahead and share slide 2, we'll get started there. As you all already know, CPE has a big education goal, which is to raise the percentage of Kentuckians with a high quality post-secondary degree or credential to 60% by the year 2030. And achieving this goal, as you all already know, is critical to job creation, our economy, and just having a more skilled and productive workforce. And CPE is really serious about this goal, and our entire strategic agenda is focused on achieving it. So Trinity, if you could go on to the next one. Just wanted to remind you all, kind of send you back to CPE strategic agenda. I'm sure you don't read that on your summer vacation, but I wanted to just remind you about a couple of objectives that are in our agenda that are focused on transitions. Section 3 is all about transitions that students make from high school into college. And in our K-12 policies and programs unit, we are all about transitions and this section. So objective 3A calls for CPE to work to expand access to high quality early post-secondary opportunities, dual credit being one of those. And 3C is about partnering with public schools and post-secondary institutions to provide the outreach to students to help them prepare and plan for college. And so what we want to talk about today, this opportunity, is all about section 3A and 3C in our strategic agenda. And this is where our current project, the Dual Credit Bridge Program, comes into play. So for years, we've been hearing from stakeholders, including you, that we have some communication gaps in our state when it comes to EPSOs, and especially for dual credit. We've heard it from you, we've heard it from students and other parents and other partners, and especially those who were engaged to the massive stakeholder feedback initiative that we had with the Commonwealth Education Continuum, our P20 Council, last year. So on the screen, you can see some of the very specific details that our students and families want to hear more about. This is where they say some of the gaps exist, that they want to know more about the benefits and even the risks of participating in early post-secondary opportunities. They want to learn more about transferring college credit and articulation. They want to know more about availability of financial aid and to really understand the dual credit scholarship, the Work Ready dual credit scholarship, and other types of financial aid that are available. And they really want to know how they can make the most of dual credit and other types of credit that they earn early that will support and align to their post-secondary and career goals. I'm glad that Harmony is with us today. She taught me about random acts of dual credit, and I love that term. And that's what we're trying to eliminate, is to help students see how the credit that they earn really aligns to what they want to do in their careers or in their post-secondary aspirations. So in addition to the stakeholder feedback from our partners in the CEC, you all already know that our revised dual credit policy calls on post-secondary institutions to initiate and maintain communication with teachers and counselors and districts for the benefit of students. And so CPE really wants to help support your efforts for better communication. And that's what we're really here to talk about today. So our dual credit bridge program that we're proposing today has a lot of benefits for students and for you, for the institutions, and also for our high school partners and parents. So I'm going to turn it over to Trinity now to talk a little bit about some of those benefits that we think we'll see from this project. Trinity, I think you're still muted.
I'm unmuted. Now I'm unmuted. There we go. Each institution is different on how they can communicate and help their students to be successful in dual credit. So having a bridge option is a chance to connect with these students face to face with having some financial support from CPE. Throughout the last few years with the CEC work and traveling around the state for the professional learning with KAA, there have been a lot of common themes in regards to what students seem to need additional assistance on. So we're hoping that this kind of program could help. So understanding basics such as how to just basically apply for admission into the program and their eligibility requirements. Just like Robin talked about, making sure they're selecting and enrolling in the appropriate courses that's going to be the best for them in their paths. Sometimes they get stuck on the technology because it's different than what they use at school, communicating with their advisors and instructors and transferring and paying for courses. So all of these types of things, you all communicate to the kids in some capacity, but hearing what we've been hearing over the last year or so, having something like this face-to-face programming could help alleviate some of those issues with the students. When we're looking at our institutions and hoping that the program is not only beneficial for those students, but for you all as well, because having face-to-face interaction should help to ensure that the students that are coming to you have a strong start in their dual credit courses, no matter what format they're taking. So this is hopefully will increase a sense of belonging to that university and being a part of that community to help with the engagement and success points. Additional feedback that we have heard from our higher ed partners is they've indicated that high school students are sometimes, they need a greater push when it comes to being prepared for the collegiate level work. That doesn't always mean academic preparation, but understanding college level expectations, such as meeting deadlines, self-advocacy, working more independently, but at the same time, understanding how to appropriately communicate with their professors, and just some of those general executive functioning skills. So we're hoping a face-to-face dual credit bridge program could help alleviate some of those issues. And then finally, this type of program should be beneficial to the high school partners as well. So during your bridge program, maybe you want to invite your high school dual credit coordinators, teachers, your Frisky coordinators, because they are very influential in making sure that students have connections to these types of resources, or district administrators or other partners in dual credit, so they can get a true understanding of what this looks like, not only for the students, but also from the institution perspective, especially with those administrators in districts. I think sometimes they don't quite understand what each side of the table is doing. So what it's looking like for the higher institution side, as well as the high school side, they just have a dual credit coordinator doing the work. So inviting them to see what's happening in these programs, I think will give them a better understanding of what's going on in these programs. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Robin so she can give you some of the specifics.
Thanks, Trinity. I know that you all are curious about, okay, so what is this all about? So what CPE is proposing to do is to provide mini grants, to provide reimbursement mini grants to institutions to host a dual credit bridge program. Now, we don't want to give too many rules about how you can do this or what you can do, because we know that based on each institution's setup and how you interact with students, it might look different. But we basically would like to see an in-person opportunity for you to connect with students. And so the opportunity includes up to $3,000 per institution, and that would be $2,500 to host a dual credit bridge program for students and the high school partner. And then an additional $500 may be requested if you'd also like to add a parent events. That might be at the end of the day, you might invite parents in, or you might host an evening parent event, however you want to make that work. But we do understand that your communication with students and the high schools is really important, but also how important it is for parents to understand the commitment of dual credit and how all of that, all of those details that Trinity has already talked about might work. So let's talk a little bit about some of the general guidelines for this mini grant. First of all, you'd be targeting students who would be enrolled or who are planning to enroll in dual credit courses for 2023-24. So for the upcoming school year. So they may be already enrolled for fall courses, or they may be looking to dual credit for the spring kind of exploratory students. And then our events would need to take place on or before September 30th. And this is about our federal funding guidelines. And so we want to make sure that we meet all of CPE's reporting requirements for that. So you could look at hosting an event during the summer if that's better for you, or you could look at partnering with a high school to have an event at the very beginning of the school year. We really would love to see it happen on a post-secondary campus. As Trinity mentioned, that sense of belonging and the opportunity to actually put feet on your campuses is so important for their matriculation and for your retention in terms of maybe even recruiting those students to be full-time students when they graduate. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Institutions may apply individually or as a group. So let me kind of break this down for you. If you want to, like as an individual institution, if you would like to apply for the $3,000 to host an event for students and a family event or a parent event, and you want to partner with your own districts, like one or more districts, to bring students in, you can certainly do that and provide that. That is September 2023. It has to happen between now and September 30th of this year. Thank you for the question. But you could also apply as a group. So I'll give you an example of how this might work. Let's say that several universities in a region want to go together and host a larger event, then you can apply as a group. If you do that, you'll have to identify one of the institutions as the fiscal agent who would have the MOA with CPE, but you could multiply your grant amount by the number of institutions that are involved in that group. And so let's say, for example, that Thomas More and NKU and Gateway wanted to go together to host an event. They could request up to $9,000 for the group to host this event. So we would love for you to collaborate with high school partner districts, the ones who already maybe have a large number of students who are involved in dual credit with your institution. You may want to target a certain demographic of students, like you may want to really zoom in on students who are first generation college goers, or students who you perceive might really benefit from being on your campus and receiving this type of support. All right, let's see here. I think that's enough for the general guidelines. We'll talk a little bit more about the fiscal guidelines here in just a few minutes, but I'll turn it back over to Trinity to talk about some ideas for how the day might look.
Thanks, Robin. So like we've mentioned before, we don't necessarily want to prescribe a schedule or agenda for you, because your campuses are all unique and have different things that you do with your students. And if you're doing it individually or a group, it might change the way that this looks. But some of the ideas that should be covered and can be covered during the dual credit bridge program are some of the things that are on the screen. All of these options don't necessarily have to be presented by the program coordinator, so we don't want to put this on you or one person, but we're encouraging you to get others on your campus involved in these presentations. So this could be professors, this could be admissions staff, financial aid staff, current students, current or previous dual credit students, or institution administrators. To me, the greatest benefit to a program like this is increasing that students and engaging them with folks all over campus is a great way to do this, just like many of you do with a traditional summer bridge program for incoming freshmen. How you design your program, again, is up to you. So whatever works best for your campuses, but keep it fun and interactive because it's still summer or early in the school year, but also so students feel that it's worthwhile and so that you feel it's worthwhile. As Robin mentioned before, you can request that additional $500 for the parent track. This could be a session at the end of the day, like she said, an evening event, or a partnership with one or more of your high schools. So I know very well from being a high school counselor, parents want to be a part of this process, and due to the nature of college, it's sometimes limiting. So I know that I found when I started a parent information session, the number of questions and confusion. So you could partner with your high school institutions. And what that looks like could really be up to you. So, just kind of be creative with that. So, and then I'm going to turn that back over to Robin to talk about more specifics.
Okay, thanks for the questions that are coming in the chat. We will have a little bit of time at the end where you all can ask us questions or drop those into the chat as we go. Here are a few specifics about the fiscal guidelines. As we mentioned earlier, we'll need to identify one post-secondary institution as the fiscal agent. So if you're in a group, you'll have to identify which institution will serve that purpose. If you're planning to apply as an individual institution, obviously you would be identified as the fiscal agent, and it is a reimbursement grant. And so as we said, the activities need to wrap up by September 30th, and then your invoices will need to be submitted to CPE no later than November 1st of 2023. And again, we don't mean to make this timeline so tight, but we have this federal funding and there are really strict guidelines about when it can be used and how it can be used. So we'll need those in by November 1st to be sure that we meet those guidelines. Your funds may be used for student or participant materials. Let's say you want print materials, or you need to, if you print them or if you order them that you want to share with students. You certainly could provide meals or snacks for your participants. If you have a daytime event where students are there all day, you could provide lunch for them. You could provide snacks and beverages for adults if they're coming in, if the parents are coming in the evening or at the end of the day. If you have staff travel, like if you're partnering with a group and you're traveling to a different campus, you could certainly include that. And as Trinity and I and several other partners have been discussing options that you might come up with, we thought, if you have this during the summer when you're dual credit, if it's a dual credit teacher who's situated at the high school, you might want to provide them a stipend for coming to participate in the day, or for your time as you're planning and preparing for the event. You might include dual credit course fees if you want to focus on a particular course that might include a technology fee or a lab fee or something like that that's not already covered by the dual credit scholarship. That's just the sticking point there, is it would need to be something that is not already covered by the scholarship. Or you may have educational supplies that you want to provide for students as they pertain to the course or the event that you have going on. So we'll try to be as flexible as we can about that. You don't have a lot of money to spend, so you have to think, of course, be very prudent about how you plan that. All right, so next steps. Again, we know that this is a tight timeline, but we really wanted you to have this opportunity. And so we just want you to know that this grant is not a competitive grant. It's really about you telling us what you'd like to do, negotiating with us to approve your budget and your agenda, and then getting started with recruiting students and setting dates and all of that. So we'll be accepting applications for this mini grant through July the 14th of 2023. So the earlier you submit to us, the earlier we can get your MOA started. We will have you submit it through a Google form, and if anybody has any trouble with that, we certainly would entertain possibilities for you to submit it other ways as well, but we prefer that you submit it that way. It just makes it easier for us. Institutions who are interested may be given the opportunity to receive additional funds to host another event. So what we're talking about here is, let's say that you have a lot of dual credit students and you partner with a lot of different districts. And so you're deciding which district or a couple of districts do we want to partner with on this first event. So if we have additional funds after July 14th that have not already been allocated, then we will, it's one of the questions on your application is, are you interested in doing more than one event? So if you are, we can loop back around to you and provide additional funding so that you can have multiple nights or multiple days of this orientation, the bridge, dual credit bridge. So I hope that makes sense, that we're not promising that you can have additional funds now, but if we have additional funds, we certainly will loop back around to those of you who have expressed an interest in an additional event. All right, so I see that there are a few questions that have come into the chat, and also Trinity has dropped in the application, the link to the application form. We've also provided a budget template for you if you'd like to use it, but you certainly don't have to use it. You could create your own budget form if you would prefer. So let's see here, Trinity. I think we can stop sharing now, and maybe we can answer some questions. So Kristen has got a question in the chat about, is this a one-time grant opportunity or might there be future opportunities? Kristen, there could be future opportunities. For now, we have this federal funding, but you know, in the future, we'll see how this goes. So there could be possibility for future funding. Does anybody else have any questions? You can feel free to come off mute, or if you want to drop another question into the chat.
Hi, Robin. Just based on my earlier question about, does it need to include students? If we wanted to do something just for counselors for like part A, and we had student events in a second part, is that allowable?
Absolutely. Terry, you can just, what we're asking for in the application is that you give us an agenda. And so there are lots of different options of how you might think about this. Like if you want to have a full day event where you have students on one track and counselors on another, or if you have a morning session with students and an afternoon with counselors, definitely. So you can just let us know how, you know, what you're thinking about there. But we definitely wanted to include students in this because it's been such a high priority in the feedback that we've gotten, is that students need this information. Thank you for the question.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Okay.
Robin, I just want to say thank you. I think this is an awesome opportunity, and I think it will be really great to track to see if it's worthwhile trying to pursue again in the future. But, you know, as you and I have talked about a lot of times, we do struggle with students feeling that connection with the higher ed institution, particularly when they're getting their courses at the high school. So giving them this opportunity, I think, is tremendous.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Harmony. Appreciate your support. Well, Trinity, would you, while I'm wrapping up here, would you put my email address and your email address in the chat so you all can grab that? If you're having any questions about the application process, or if you want to just any clarity about anything, feel free to contact us. And we will be watching the Google form as your applications come in. And like I said, it's really first come, first serve. We definitely have funding for all the people who were on the call today. If it's something that you feel like you can manage in the short term, turnaround. I know, I'm sorry, I apologize for the short turnaround, but we definitely want to make the most of any federal funding that we have remaining. And so we're excited about trying this new thing to support dual credit students and their families. All right. Any final questions or comments before we sign off? Well, thanks to everyone who has spoken into this process. We appreciate you helping us kind of fine tune the opportunity before we rolled it out. And we look forward to working with you on this and really supporting students and their families on dual credit. Thank you.